Russell Brand today. We'll be talking to Ben Peterson about saving warriors and elevating their consciousness. Christina Tobin about the failings in, well, your democracy. I'm British. Our democracy's doing very well, as a matter of fact. And we'll be talking about the tragic, peculiar case of Professor Jason Arday and what it tells us about DEI. That's all today on Stay Free with Russell Brand.
Wake me up again, oh, wake me up again, just wake me up again, my love. Oh, won't you wake me up?
Hello and welcome to Stay Free with Russell Brand. On the show today, we're going to be talking to Ben Peterson. We're going to be talking to Christina Tobin as well, talking to Ben about his book. Before we get into that, we're going to be talking about and trying our best to understand a very peculiar British story about a professor called Jason Arday, who tragically ended his own life after media hounding. But it's a really intriguing story because it includes DEI, it includes the culture war, and media reporting and the power of contemporary media. It's actually a little bit of a confusing story. You know how there's a tendency on platforms like Rumble, maybe even across our culture generally, to preach to the choir, where you know that a certain group of people are going to have one perspective and another group of people are going to have another perspective, like i.e. if I say Trump in a certain environment, I know some people are going to go weak at the knees and start not necessarily pullulating, but maybe releasing endorphins or some kind of spores, some kind of genital spore, like a fungus. Then in other environments, if you mention Trump, people will become very agitated, and the trick has become in our modern culture to know which environment you're in. But how's that going to help us if we are all truly the children of one God, and the baseline of our collective consciousness is shared, that we're all portals to God's glory? Well, we've got to work that out, and we've got commercial breaks coming up. But before we get into any of that, let's start with the lighter side of the culture war, where Royce White has the former, he's like an NBA player, is he, Jake, or former?
He's definitely an athlete of some sort.
So he certainly is. I mean, he's a hell of a man,
jacked.
isn't he?
Oh, yeah,
he's totally jacked.
He's jacked.
I must say, I really like the new theme tune. Who wrote that thing?
Oh, that's one of my songs.
Who sang that thing?
That was me singing.
So did you hear that? Did you hear Jake singing and stuff like that?
Yeah, thank you.
You can follow Jake Smith on Spotify if you're interested in Jake's music, and if you are yourself a musician, Christian, Muslim, or Jew, Jake is waiting to collaborate with you now. You can find him on Instagram. He don't care what religion you are. You could be a Zoroastrian, or them people like the ones that like reggae, whatever you're into. I don't know. Do you do ones with the people that worship Jah?
What is that?
Jah, the people that worship Jah.
Sure. Yeah.
That religion.
Is it good?
I can't remember the name of that
good
religion.
Music?
Rastafarianism. That's what it's called. Yeah, they Jah rule. That's what it means. All right, okay. Well, then, firstly, then, should we have a look, mate, at Royce White explaining his WNBA declaration on Fox News? Let's have a look.
Why are you getting involved, and how did the WNBA even get to this point?
You know, right now I'm just having a blast in my feminine era. I never thought that I was a woman. You know, I've always trusted the science, and I thought I was a man my entire life. But you know, after further review, strong look at my personal preferences, it would appear that I am indeed sometimes identifying as a transgender woman, and I think it's only fair I get a chance to play with some of my queens here in the twilight of my career, my athletic prime.
There you go. So there's what Royce White is doing is obviously exposing the challenges of gender fluidity and identification purely on the basis of the way you feel. Now it says here there's a second NBA star that's declaring for the WNBA draft. So presumably Royce White was also NBA. Let's have a look at this.
It's official. I just declared for the 2027 WNBA draft in April. Join me in this journey.
Dennis Cantor Freedom decided he's going to throw his hat into the WNBA.
The WNBA does not ban men who identify as women right now from playing in the league.
He would dominate the WNBA without batting an eyelash.
The #1 prospect in the history of the WNBA.
Okay, so I suppose what we're looking at there is how the gender wars and culture wars are open to punking and pranking. And I wonder how we are to reconcile the idea that some people may feel desperately unhappy in their body and confused with the idea that if you have no fixed identity, if you reject the idea, for example, that man made God in his image, I've identified with God there. I mean, that can't be right, surely. Elohim, God made man and woman in his image, man and female, male and female, he made them. I've always thought that's really, I've always enjoyed that male and female he created them. And I always like that there's no man and woman in heaven. I like that idea because it sort of, for me, indicates that there is a space and a philosophy that liberates us from the very restrictions that people that might not feel at ease in their body are suffering from. And on that, by the way, when I was, I don't know, 17, 18, I never would have thought, oh, the reason I'm unhappy is because of my genitals, although I did give them a lot of attention thinking about it. They were very much front and center. I mean, literally front and center. That's where God hangs them. But also, I mean, I was a little overly focused on them. For me, it was much more about I felt crazy and like I wanted to take drugs the whole time. I don't know, man. I guess it's interesting, the information that you put into the culture, if it's not tethered to or anchored by something with some theological weight or ontological weight, some certainty, then it could be subject to all sorts of bad actors. Now, in my country, the UK, have you heard of it? We invented your country. We started it. We gave you your language. Now, you did beat us in that war. Cornwallis, unleash the dragoons! As a result of errors made, military errors, we didn't keep up with the guerrilla warfare that you were engaging when you started shooting officers. That's not right that you did that. Nevertheless, that's over now. It's behind us. Let's put it in the past. Let's not think about it. At least we can all agree that we hate the French. Now, hey, guess what? We're doing this new thing with Rumble Wallet. You can use this new chat called Rant if you're invested in Rumble Wallet and using the currencies that it facilitates. If you actually want my attention, here's a clear line to it. Here's how it works. I'm prioritizing Rant sent through Rumble Wallet. If you send one and I see it, I respond. Simple as that. So, comment on Rumble Wallet in the chat now. For a limited time, you can start your wallet with $5 in the US stablecoin for tipping Rumble creators like me by entering my exclusive promo code, BRANDS. Questions, hot takes, stuffs you really want me to react to, don't bury it in the chat, put it in Rant. Because let's be honest, regular chat flies by, but when you use Rumble Wallet, it cuts through everything. So here's the move. Scan the QR code or use the link in my description, download Rumble Wallet and try it yourself. And don't forget to use the code BRAND5 and claim $5 for tipping in USAT. Sending a tip is easy. Open the chat up like you're sending a Rumble rant and hit pay with a Rumble Wallet. This is basically a VIP lane. You want to shout out? You want me to actually engage with what you're saying? Use Rumble Wallet and claim $5 in USAT with my code BRAND5. Then send a rant. I'm watching for them. Restrictions apply. There's a limited number of entries available. So there you have it. Use Rumble Wallet and use the Rumble rant facility. Isn't that right, dear?
That's exactly right, Russell.
Thank you very much. You've done very well.
Thank you
today.
very much.
In my country, Professor Jason Arday, who appears to have exaggerated some of his biography, claiming that he was pre-verbal, or they couldn't speak till he was 3 and stuff like that, but more demonstrable and corroboratable, he apparently plagiarized tracks of his PhD thesis. Now, in case you haven't worked this out, given the context of the story, Professor Jason Arday was a person of color. That color is often called black, but sort of dark brown, really, to be more specific, if you're going to sort of get nailed into pigment and all of that. And, I mean, this guy killed himself because during the time when, like, he was being held up as the youngest ever professor and a great example of diversity and strength, like someone, and I think that person might have had an agenda because I think the person was maybe a little bit racist, started investigating Jason Arday and saying, hey, Arday, excuse me, saying like, hey, this guy's qualifications aren't everything that he said they were, and all these claims, some of which, by the way, were a bit outrageous. Like he said stuff like when he was, I think he maybe claimed to rescue someone from a burning building. I don't know. He said stuff that's in Superman. He made some claims that were difficult to verify and potentially untrue. Nevertheless, the reason this becomes fascinating is because of its complexity. The Times newspaper in the UK, that's a News International Murdoch-run newspaper, really, I think, pushed the story on Facebook Meta to people that they knew would be agitated by the story, i.e. the media wants us to hate each other. In the midst of this maelstrom, our man, God rest his eternal soul, Jason Arday, it appears took his own life. That's not being verified at this time, but he's just died all of a sudden alone in a room. I mean, unless he's like on his umpteenth Moderna booster shot, there's no other reason. People don't die of nothing, or didn't until the COVID era, when the world's fittest, finest athletes suddenly started dropping dead for no reason at all. But we don't think about that now. That was ages ago. Let's put it all behind us and just focus on the glory of living in a godless world run by godless demonic forces who think they can make us happy through endlessly stimulating us through mindless pleasure. So that we understand this story, let's have a look at some of the aspects, and I'll do my best to explain it to you. Forgive me if I make any mistakes or if I'm insensitive. I'm not perfect! Let's have a look.
Silence, afforded in death. But in the last few weeks of his life, Jason Arday supporters say he had anything but.
We knew that he felt hounded by those rabid wolves.
To some, the scrutiny was fair and in the public interest. To others, it went way beyond that, an unrelenting stream of criticism and public humiliation that was not bestowed on white colleagues accused of the same.
By anonymous people, by other professors who just didn't believe that a black man should be a Cambridge professor.
249 national press articles appeared about him in just 22 days, 75% of them after a resignation statement in which he said he had reached the limits of what any person should reasonably be expected to endure.
May God rest the eternal soul of Jason Arday. Now, I myself have been the subject of investigations, as it turns out, by that very same newspaper, and been the subject of public scrutiny. And I can tell you from personal experience, it does put a lot of spiritual pressure on you. And I could see how some people might get to the point where it was unbearable. There were moments where I felt it. And I was very curious to watch that on Channel 4. They were also a news organisation that were involved in excessive reporting when it comes to me. But this story, I must remember this, Russell, it's not about me. Not everything's about you, Russell. When will you stop being so self-obsessed? I don't know. I mean, I'm even talking about myself now. Right, I've got to get over that. Check out this, right? So that was that vigil held for him, and you could see from the sort of inflection of it and some of the participants, that was very much focused on his hounding and the meanness and the bullying that doubtless took place in the media. Here is a prominent British broadcaster, James O'Brien, talking about how he feels, having discovered that some of the claims made about Jason Arday, and this is while he was still alive, of course, were bogus and untrue. Like he was being put forward like he was a, like a wunderkind academic expert. Here's James O'Brien.
I feel like a mug, actually, is the short answer. I don't feel guilt. I don't feel, oh, you should have done differently or you should have done better, because, I mean, who would? Who would meet a Cambridge professor and immediately start thinking, God, I wonder whether you actually deserve to be a I certainly wouldn't do that. If I was a racist and I met a black Cambridge professor, then I probably would find myself thinking, yeah, really, black guy, professor, I don't think, but I'm not a racist, so it didn't cross my mind.
So how are we going to navigate the space between being an awareness that racism is a real thing, that racism and the history of our kind of countries like mine and yours, has got racial implications, imperialism, colonialism, commercialism, corporatism, the plunder of the continent of Africa, the exploitation of India, even places that you barely even think of, like archipelagos in the South Seas, bear consequences of British colonialism, and some of these things aren't that long ago. What is the impact? But how do we marry that together with the fact that many of the organisations, and let's just name one of them, Black Lives Matter, seem to have had an agenda and motives beyond the aid and assistance of people of colour. And also we seem to have a media that benefit from generating further strife, further conflict. What do we do to transcend these barriers and boundaries so that people of colour feel that their story is heard, and people that are white, who might have all sorts of complex issues? Did I tell you about me? I've had some problems in the past, and I happen to be as white as they come, although in some ways gloriously tanned. I mean, what I want to say is beauty is only skin deep, and idiocy can be pretty easily concealed. And I'm suffering not so much from the former and a great deal from the latter. So how are we going to ensure ensure that we don't end up in categories, taxonomies and tribes that continue to benefit that floating elite, that set of institutions that benefit from us all hating one another. Let me know in the comments and chat what you think about that, and give us your own contributions, and try not to collapse either into the simplistic, Jason Arday, he's a hero, or DEI's gone crazy and black people are getting jobs they don't deserve, and try not to let them make you go mad. Once you're crazy, you're out of the game. All right, let's have a look at this. This is Jason Arday. A lot of you Americans won't have heard of him, I suppose, so let's check him out and have a look.
My name is Jason Arday. I'm Professor of Sociology of Education at the University of Cambridge, and I'm very fortunate to be the author of Great and Unfortunate Things. I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. I learned to speak just before the age of 12, so I was 11. I learned to read and write when I was 18 years of age. Those milestones became quite significant. 12 years after learning to read and write, I gained a PhD, and then I ended up becoming one of the youngest professorial chairs in Cambridge's history. The memoir is a story of a mother who advocated for their non-verbal and autistic child who, on a spectrum of autism in terms of global development delay and other things, navigated lots of different difficulties in this journey that ended up becoming this memoir.
All right, so there he is talking about his memoir. Now, I don't want to get too blink test about this. Malcolm Gladwell's famous assertion that you can tell almost at a glance whether you're going to like a teacher or fall in love with someone. But at a glance there at Professor Jason, I sort of saw some vulnerability and tenderness there in the fella. So let's have a look at this still of details on his book, see if I can read that from there. Right, so this is a commentator that I guess is a little more condemnatory. We've seen some people that are very pro, dear Jason. This is wild. The Atlantic has obtained a copy of Jason Arday's book. In it, he claims to have experienced locked-in syndrome for several months after being hit by a car. Doctors advise his family to have the life support machine turned off, but he awakened miraculously, been struck down by testicular cancer, though this changes in the book to brain cancer, been beaten up by a group of kids, and then in court pleaded with the judge not to jail them. Coincidentally, 2 of the kids later became his students, and Arday became a godfather to the child of one of them, aborted a suicide attempt on a bridge after listening to an Eagles song. I've had the exact opposite happen to me. I've listened to an Eagles song and then considered ending it. It's Hotel California. It's confusing. What does it mean? Been awarded several accolades, of which no proof exists online. Been told by a shaman woman in Brazil that he would suffer greatly. Now, look, I suppose what's interesting now is we're talking about a dead guy. We're talking about a guy who's likely, possibly, maybe ended his own life. It's interesting and confusing, isn't it? Because I reckon this, we're all a little bit flawed. I remember when they started to do reality TV, I was of the age where I wanted to be famous at that time, And I remember thinking, man, if you were on camera for 24 hours, people would see such craziness in you. And what's also mad about my particular situation is I've been accused of really, really terrible things I can't talk about because I've got a trial in October. But it's very difficult, I think, to hold together your own awareness of personal fallibility, your own flaws, the times you've lied to get what you want, the times you've omitted information, the times you've manipulated people to get what you want. And now all of this is getting flung into this very unforgiving and unlovely, unbeautiful culture. It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you elevate someone on the basis of their race or denigrate someone on the basis of their race, you're making the same error in some ways, isn't it? Because a principle, by necessity, means an unmoving and universal idea. Like when God tells us, love one another as I have loved you, or love your neighbor, and your neighbor is whoever you're around. It feels to me, and this is why I love our Lord so much, that he's anticipating the various ways that the culture will get us in a muddle. It's okay to hate these people, but it's not okay to hate these people. Oh, it's switched around. Now it's okay to hate these people, but not hate these people. There are certain principles like life is sacred, God is real, you are second to God, remain in alignment with God, you will make mistakes, but you can repent and you can be redeemed. That means you can find new purpose, be reactivated into a new purpose, if only you're willing to get beyond yourself. When all of us appoint ourselves as judge, say there is no God, and then ourselves occupy that throne, man, do we end up in a messy situation. That's just what I think about it, though. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. We'll ask our audience what they think in a moment, and let's have a look what Douglas Murray has to say, my fellow countryman who does seem to be very articulate on many social and cultural issues. For Arday to succeed, very many people had to stay silent, so very many people failed. The pursuit of excellence in education is not negated by his tragic end. The right of the best to rise, whatever their race or background, remains desirable. The necessity that the next generation of students receive the best possible education remains paramount. Icarus had only himself to blame, but in this case, there were those who encouraged him to believe his wings would not burn up. In the pursuit of what end? That's a post by Douglas Murray, who always has an insightful thing to say. Anyone here in the audience have a perspective on this situation they'd like to share? If you do, we have got a qualified nurse who will bring you a microphone just in case you suffer from a medical lapse of some kind on the way. Don't feel embarrassed if you don't have anything to say, and don't feel shy if you do have something to say. Go with your simple, sexually enhanced instincts, while I'll tell you that She Legit is available now, and boy is it legit. I took my first capsule just 5 minutes ago, and let me tell you, it's a miracle this desk isn't being tipped over. I say that with all due respect to our mixed audience. Anyone there, anyone have a contribution on this? Just indicate to me with your hand. Do you feel shy? That means I'm not creating a gentle enough atmosphere. I'm not I'm not Joe Jackson. I'm not Joe Jackson lashing at the Jackson 5 with my belt. Michael, you better respect me, boy. Okay, Dad. You're going to hit those high notes. Okay, Dad. What is the atmosphere in this room? And I want to say, particularly to blame, are you two black men. You, above all else, should be, I am racially profiling. You are at least 50% black, and you have where are you? We've met before. Remind me your name, mate. I'm sorry.
Martin.
Martin, yeah.
Martin.
We met, we prayed together.
Yes,
I've only dragged you into this because I know that you are a confident man, and
yeah.
I remember from your handshake the first time you met, thinking that man could kill me without breaking his stride. You know, in the same way that I'm like, I get that thing off my face. What did you feel when you're watching this? And do you think that what you felt is informed by your national identity, your racial identity, your sexual identity, your identity in Christ? Just let us know, will you?
Oh, yes. So for me, as I watched that, I definitely grew up in a family where, yes, we are people of color, black. South Virginia understood where I'm from, but our family was, hey, your identity in Christ comes first. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter all this stuff. And for me, I learned freedom in Christ when I learned most of our differences are really just cultural, because the pigment of our skin, how much melanin out really doesn't matter. Like, I was able to blessed to play football in college level. Nobody really cared. Like, can you perform? Can you do your job? Are you putting in the thing? Hey, we all made God's children. Hey, this doesn't really matter. Are you doing what you're supposed to do? And it's the same thing I can say about the military. Are you able to do your job? I don't really care what your color you're all. We're all gonna bleed the same, brother. Do you have my back when we go into this? So for me, sometimes I definitely will not have a perspective. I'll bless. My mother was wonderful explaining to her, hey, that doesn't matter. Like, hey, is God first? Okay, cool. Let's go to work. It doesn't matter. Hey, you need each other to help to be successful. In the book of Acts, as you look through the book of Acts, so many cultures came together to start Christianity. It started with the Jews, but Jesus said, hey, you're gonna go to the Jews, you can go to Samaria, you can go into the whole world. And that's everybody. So it's like, hey, you can't be upset about this, that, and the third. Paul's first missionary journey, there's a guy from Syria. There's a guy from current day Egypt. There's a guy that's, hey, I'm from here. So that doesn't matter in God's kingdom. So when I look at this, I'm sad that some people or our media loves to put this versus that. Where I grew up, the teams I've been on, that doesn't matter. You know, so I might not give people the voice they want. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I shouldn't have gone to him. What a waste of time. Waste of time. He had nothing insightful or undergirded by scripture or personal experience to add. We'll cut that from the final program. Get a white person saying something, could you? About that. Yeah, thank you, man. That was beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that contribution. It shows, in fact, that these collapsible and temporary categories that relate literally to the skin, the transient tabernacle that we're passing through, oughtn't be made permanent. If we try and make this stuff permanent, then we're making an error. I love the examples of sport and the military where metrics are measurable, and also academia is meant to be one such place too. I suppose, who is it that makes these final measurements? Who is it that searches us and looks inside our heart? Who is it now that's attempting to provide us with new criteria and ever-shifting categories for what's important and why it's important? Very interesting that if you take away the belief in God, it becomes impossible to make any real claims about anything permanent like that. This is an interesting way to, we're going to park it there and leave the final word to mine there. That was very insightful and conclusive. And here is the famous Ash conformity study that shows that people are willing to participate in false beliefs if enough other people do it. And most of us have lived through COVID, not all of us, because, you know, COVID killed a lot of people, maybe not as many people as the medical measures subsequently did, but we know what it is to conform. We're a generation of people that have to understand the dangers of conformity. Have a look at this Ash study.
Imagine you're in a room with 7 other people. You're all asked a simple question: which line matches the one on the left? It's obvious, until everyone else picks the wrong answer. This was the setup in Solomon Ash's classic 1950s study. What the real participant didn't know? The other participants were actors, intentionally giving the wrong answer. The result? Nearly a third of the time, participants went along with the wrong majority, just to fit in. Even further, a full 75% of the participants conformed at least once, even when the answer was clearly incorrect.
If conformity is really as endemic as is apparently indicated by the Ash study, imagine the kind of conformity engendered by bipartisan political systems. Most of the governments of the apparently post-Enlightenment Western democratic world are somehow trapped in a peculiar clinch of red versus blue and left versus right. How can we ever find freedom in that direction? Our next guest, Christina Tobin, will be talking to us about new forms of institution, system, and democracy. Before we meet her, have a look at this.
The two-party system is really one party. It's a business. As of now, it benefits the two-party system to keep it a very archaic system. Third parties had to get 25,000 signatures in Illinois to get on the ballot, while it was only 5,000 for Democrats and Republicans.
Hey, you lot, please welcome to the stage Christina Tobin. Hello. Nice to see you. Be comfortable in this environment and have a microphone. Christina, thanks very much for joining us today on Stay Free with Russell Brand. We want to talk to you particularly about free and equal elections. What is the Free and Equal Election Foundation? Tell us now that we all understand whether we're black, white, straight, gay, trans, or a new, vibrant, thrusting WNBA player with a fine set of testes.
Well, I think you just described it.
Which bit?
Well, I mean, all of it. We include everybody. We're all inclusive, free and equal elections. I'm an election reform expert.
What do you mean by that?
Well, in 2008, I worked as the National Ballot Access Coordinator for Independent Ralph Nader.
Sorry about that.
So I saw the flaws, the fundamental flaws of the electoral system as a National Ballot Access Coordinator. I've coordinated millions of signatures to get candidates on the ballot, and that was the beginning of my career in sparking free and equal elections and starting it in 2008.
Christina, Ralph Nader, he was an independent candidate. Bobby Kennedy, Secretary Kennedy, ran, of course, as an independent candidate, and maybe no one's made so much impact as Ron Paul on the several times that he ran as an independent candidate. What is the significance of independent candidates? And when you say free and equal, what do you mean free and equal? Like, what needs to change for it to become free and equal?
We need to replace the two-party system with independent candidates, or no longer beholden to the party system. The Constitution.
People love this idea.
Yeah, the Constitution.
They're clapping, they're drinking. One guy took down his shorts. Christina, why is this idea rousing such passion?
Well, I mean, the Gallup poll says there's over 45%, it's probably over 50 now, 50% of voters are independents, more than Democrats and Republicans combined. Our forefathers in the Constitution, there's no mention of political parties. They warned us, right, that political parties are evil. And as they become created, I've seen it within the National Libertarian Green Constitution Party, the third, fourth, fifth largest political parties. As they become larger, they inevitably become infiltrated. So in 2008, after serving as the ballot access coordinator for Ralph Nader, which takes over 900,000 signatures for an independent to get on the ballot. It's only 25 or 50,000 for D's and R's. That's unconstitutional. That was the creation of Free and Equal Elections when Free and Equal hosted the first nationally televised presidential debate outside of the Commission on Presidential Debates.
So, mate, I was just thinking what a monumental task you've set for yourself there. And I was thinking how idiosyncratic, even once in a millennia type political figures like Trump. And I say that from a kind of, as best as I can, non-partisan perspective. Like, even Trump, one suspects, after some time in office, a person who reformed the Republican Party in his image seems to, when it comes to very particular and very significant issues, geopolitical issues, and I mean, for example, the Iran war, seems to be conformed to a set of ideals that are extra party political. What I'm trying to say is, whoever you are, however strong you are, however unusual you are, however brilliant you are, it seems that there's something in that system that produces the same outcome and result. And I like your observation that the Constitution doesn't talk about a bipartisan system, that it really focuses on flourishing independence. I've noticed a weird thing in our culture, and even today's story about Jason Arday, God rest his soul, is kind of emphasizes it, that the culture seems to be able to keep us in a sort of stranglehold, that wherever we go within that clinch, we're going sort of where they want. You know, when child psychologists tell you to control your kid, give it like two options. Who would you like to clean your teeth? Me or you? Ha ha ha. Either way, their teeth gets cleaned. Like, so it's like, we're that. We're that. Whether you vote for the Democrats or the Republicans, you're having a war with Iran. Whether you vote for the Democrats or the Republicans, you're getting that COVID shot. So what is this extra power and where is it coming from? I noticed something interesting when watching a documentary about our very own John Lennon with Yoko Ono living in your great city of New York, that the culture war around the time of Richard Nixon was eerily reminiscent of the culture war now. You had a kind of conservative Republican movement undergirded by a sort of, it seemed to me, a somewhat shallow Christianity, and a countercultural movement with some rather brilliant orators and brave figures that were interested in compassion and stuff, but their ideology was not rooted. It was not rooted. So if we're going to start messing with these systems, as you want to, Christina, what is the ideology that you have recourse to that's going to make it not be, I don't know, anarchic or chaotic?
We elect candidates not beholden to special interests. AIPAC, for example. I was out in Kentucky at Thomas Massey's home. Actually, in 2024, Representative Thomas Massey, you almost joined as well as a co-moderated with me, that is, for our presidential debates. Well, in Kentucky, I saw this guy named Pete Hegseth come in and support his opponent that was funded $35 million from AIPAC. Knocked Representative Thomas Massey out of office. So what we need is an independent, what we need is an independent paradigm that's larger outside of the system, because the Republicans have rigged the system and left the independents out in the cold. And as this United We Stand tour, which Free and Equal Elections launched in 2014, simultaneously doing presidential debates every cycle since 2008. You may have seen me co-moderate in 2012 a broadcast the late legend Larry King reaching tens of millions. I realized in 2014 when my hero, Dr. Ron Paul, former congressman out of Texas. Yes.
People like him.
Yeah, I love him. And I've met him 3-4 times this last year. And he said, if we're ever going to bring about revolutionary changes, two things would need to be involved: the youth and music. United We Stand Festival, the Ross Perot words. And so what that does, what the tour now is breaking out to a tour, we can talk about it next week, August 26th through 28th. United We Stand is taking place at Shelter Island at the Ram's Head Inn, where Oppenheimer and all the physicists came together, right, around the nuclear atomic, that is, bomb. And so to bring peace and
Can I say, Christina, that wasn't a good thing.
No.
That led to that terrible, terrible atomic attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
I like to go to the belly of the beast and bring the meetings of the minds.
Go
at the
to
end
the
of
belly of it.
That's where we're going.
What?
You know you're going?
Hold on,
You
what
see
is
yourself in
this?
that
We're
photo?
going to, it's not Shutter Island, the Leonardo DiCaprio film.
Well, it could be.
It's Shelter Island. Now, one of the people that seems to be there is I live inside of. Me, Russell Brand. He's there.
Yes.
So I'm going to be there.
You're going to be there.
What's going to happen?
You're going there. You're going to have a meeting of minds. You're going to sit next to Joe from Texas on Social Security form. In 2032, Social Security is going to be cut by 22%. So if you're retiring right now, by the time you're in your 70s, your Social Security is going to be cut back by 22% in 2032. So that's one of the speakers. We have Patrick Burns of Overstock. Wow, election integrity. He talks about the Venezuelan, how the elections have been, well, predetermined for quite some time. We have a lot of people that are going to be a part of it. Joby Weeks will be joining us via live stream. I'm going to be going to his place after this.
It's very expensive.
Ron Paul. Ron Paul. Huh?
Look, it's very expensive, $250.
Yes.
Can't you give away some for free?
I'd love to.
Give away 10 for free to our viewers.
Yeah, let's do it. 10 tickets for free to Shelter Island. It's 150 people.
It's not Shutter Island. Just clarify. It's not that mental asylum where Leonardo DiCaprio was in the movie Shutter Island.
But it is an island.
And people might go crazy while they're there.
You got to take a ferry to it.
Oh, man.
You're going on
that
a ferry.
freaks me out. Once you're there, isn't it?
You are there.
That's the horror of a ferry.
We're going to talk about national security, social security, to the debt, to data centers.
I don't like talking about stuff like that. I don't understand it. I'm confused by it.
You'll learn from the experts.
You're actually quite controlling. For someone who wants to make the system less controlling, you're being very controlling to me.
Well, you're the first one to tell me that.
Good. Well, someone should have stepped up. I'm going to gang up with Thomas Massey, Ron Paul, all these independents, and we're going to somehow have to make it clear to you, Christina, that you've victimised us onto your own personal island of Dr. Moreau, which, as far as I know, might be full of genetic freaks all running around like that mouse with an ear on its back. Remember that from those experimentations and cloned creatures. So what we're going to go, when we're there, we're going to learn about free and open elections and electoral reform that's meaningful so that you don't have the sort of endless clinch of two political parties that where it's fundamentally important agree with one another, i.e. where both parties agree with one another, you have no freedom at all. Now, what I agree with is decentralization, mate.
I want to talk about that. That's the bigger project. The debates, United We Stand Tour. All right, United We Stand Tour is kicking off at Shelter Island. We're already slated to go to Art Basel at the Ritz-Carlton December 3rd, Sagamore. And throughout the tour in 2028, United We Stand is going to present the presidential debates. We're incorporating decentralized blockchain technology into the tour. In 2024, over 60,000 people voted via ranked choice voting, instant runoff voting, who would be the top 6 in our debates. So as we have that tour, the people are going to poll, they're going to be interactive. We're going to list every single candidate running for office in that app, including independent candidates on a decentralized ledger.
Okay, brilliant. Well, just by a show of hands, who thinks that what Christina's talking about is necessary and important? Mertz, film this. Put it by hands. Who thinks she's right? Who thinks she's wrong? Anyone? All right, did you get that, Mertz? But hold on, we just got to wait. It looked like you won, but we've got to wait for those mail-in ballots. Oh, the mail-in ballots have just arrived. No, I won. Okay.
Well, they're controlling the election. Texit Coin, so grateful. Digital asset coin out of Texas. They put up hundreds of thousands for Ron Paul's 90th birthday. Honored to have them. Joe from Texas, who emceed Tucker Carlson's tour. Joe Kent's going to be a part of this, too, the former of the Tulsi Cap. I know.
What was Ron Paul doing?
So you can go to UnitedWeStandTour.org.
There's a link in the description.
All right, so what about Ron Paul?
What can you do at your 90th birthday? I mean, you can't go, make it rain! Whoop, whoop, raise the roof! Or like at your 90th birthday, sit quietly and calmly in case you have a heart attack and die.
Are you trying to control Dr. Ron Paul?
She's got me with my own trap. Ladies and gentlemen, Christina Tobin! Yay. Thank you, well done. Speaking of which, who do you think will win the 2026 presidential election? The guys over at Polymarket have JD Vance as the favourite and AOC a close second. Trump is at 3%. Bet on this and other real-world events at Polymarket. As you know, the Almighty has saved me, and as a result, he saved my wife as well. God bless you, Heavenly Father. Every Sunday, we do a podcast together, my wife and I. It is called Sunday Service. Here is a brief moment from Sunday Service Now. Take a look at this. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts or wherever you watch Rumble, which is Rumble.
Do you remember when we used to do As the Crow Flies?
Yes.
We would walk just straight, even if it meant you had to walk straight over a wall. We went into the Barbican. didn't we? That was amazing. And the one that I'm thinking of was Chelsea Flower Show.
I hurt myself on my bag.
It was my bag.
Even worse. We weren't married yet, were we?
Oh no, we weren't married.
Children,
And I feel like you were carrying my bag, and I think as you went over the gate, I think it like knocked. That's probably
Actually,
also.
I'm still angry about that, and I want to go into it.
Okay, go on.
Because As the Crow Flies was a game we had, which is like, let's go in a straight line, and if there are obstacles, we'll surmount them. And it led to me sort of climbing lots of walls and stuff. And then when me and Laura got together, I was like, hey, we might want to do this thing I do. It's called As the Crow Flies. You go in a straight line, and then like if there's an obstacle, you got to get round it.
I had to buy sneakers.
I bought you those sneakers.
He had to buy
cut all of my kindness out of the story. Yeah, we'll leave that on the floor. You should work for the Crown Prosecution Service. Yeah, leave that bit.
Okay,
That's no good.
hold on. He had to buy.
He didn't have to buy. He, out of love, chose to buy
some really cool bright orange sneakers.
Now we're getting somewhere.
All right, you bought me some orange sneakers.
Did that hurt? Was that bad? Was that
no,
hurt
it
to
was
admit?
lovely. Although I
No,
think
I
they
mean,
gave me blisters.
Oh,
I'm joking.
Oh Lord,
that was a joke.
Strengthen us,
That
Father.
was a joke. That
Show
was
us how
a
to
joke.
suffer. I see now why you're a single man. God.
Okay, carry on.
So, like that moment there, I remember because I just then got a flash of a thing that still exists in the dynamic of our relationship. And remember the theme that I've established or like was hoping to explore was that in our separation, I learned to love you more, learned to love our family more, learned to realize what it is that the family does for me, as well as allowing God to heal some of the wounds and abrasions that sometimes don't get uncovered because they're swathed in the love and distractions of family life, to have them exposed to the coruscating sun just for a moment, brought to the forefront these wounds and gave them a chance to heal. When you and I first got back together there and did things like As the Crow Flies, walk in a straight line, see where you end up, and we ended up in peculiar places. I lived in East London then, and we would end up in the Barbican, a sort of a somewhat modern cultural centre and set of controlled rent houses in London. And we ended up in places with ducks and whatnot. And one time while doing it in Chelsea, we came across the Chelsea Flower Show, which, as I recall, was not set up yet, was being set up and weren't open to the public yet. And we climbed through it. Now, what I know is that you the whole time would have been going, we shouldn't be doing this, we shouldn't be doing this, this is dangerous, we shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing this. And I would have, instead of being able to put my focus into the present moment, would have been assuaging continually your unnecessary, in my view, fears. But this is the tension within which our relationship exists and within which, praise God, our children are happily raised because they have a protective, diligent and observant mother and a father that's like, well, what about if we do this? What about if this is possible? What does God want? Never, never, never yielding to the authority of man, but yielding always to the holy authority of God. Anyway, I remember I was distracted and I remember that I did bring your bag, which I think had a laptop in it.
It did have a laptop because I was a restaurant manager at the time.
You're a little nerd. And I swung that bag and it bashed me in the jaw. And it's interesting how you learn, like, you know, like Zen masters teach meditation by like whacking it.
Yeah, but that sounds awful.
Well,
but okay,
man's a message.
All right,
I've never forgotten that Chelsea Flower Show. Never forgotten it.
No, I remember the handbag it was and everything. I seem to remember you. I think you were a bit upset that I had a laptop in my bag, but I think I might have come from work, and it was like, you know, I do remember the whole thing, but it was magical. The point was that through these, it was a magical experience to discover this sort of garden, if you know, whatever it was, especially something like the Chelsea Flower Show, which obviously is orchestrated to look a certain way, but it was being set up, it was nighttime, and it just looked stunning, and it was in these walls and fences, and it was magical, I think, wouldn't you say? The sort of
it led to magic.
Sunday service is available every Sunday. There's a link in the description. Talk about Christianity, which we talk about. I'll talk about more extensively in How to Become Christian in 7 Days. There's a link in the description if you want to get that book, and if you want the audio book, very kindly, Sky Horse Publishing have arranged for it to be available to you for free. So you can just click that link in the description. You can have it for nothing. There's more important things than money. There's my ego. Got to serve that above all else, and I like to see the numbers going higher and higher. Our next guest on the show has performed forms of service that go even beyond show business, you would have to say, serving in Iraq. He is an author, a writer, and a man of God. Before we meet Ben Peterson, who I inadvertently met on a... Actually, I think we met at an airport just by sheer chance, by the holy hand. Here's a little clip to give you an idea about what he's all about.
We are in an AI race with China right now. This is the next nuclear weapon.
is from a power perspective. It will determine the geopolitical landscape of warfare for the future of the world. We're in the race for the future of the human race. This is the last invention.
Please welcome to the stage Ben Peterson. Ben Peterson, I can talk. I said I wouldn't mess that up. Make yourself comfortable. That's your microphone.
All right.
I've got your book here, When Intelligence Isn't Human, by Ben Peterson. Tell us a bit about it, you handsome maniac.
It's an honor. We are in a new age of artificial intelligence. The world has changed. And we run, with Martin, we run a ministry for our active duty military.
I love that guy.
Yeah. He's
Martin,
a good
who gave
teammate.
that amazing answer earlier in the show. Let's have a round of applause for Martin and have a look at him over there. Look at him just being handsome and brilliant. So, all right.
I surround myself with people better than me. So
It's not like he was a plant or anything, but he did provide us with a really good answer when we needed one.
Target-rich environment.
Target? Oh, God, man, I love the military. I'm so gay for the military. I can see why Village People had one person dressed as a soldier. Did they? I can't remember.
Can't remember. But God really called me to write this book because our younger generation has lost the identity of knowing their father. And they found an identity and a father-like relationship in social media and artificial intelligence. And right now, 40% of millennials and Gen Z equate talking to AI as like talking to a pastor. And this is continuing to proliferate. And so as we are impacting tens of thousands of our active duty service members who are using artificial intelligence every day as a part of their operations, God really called me to write this book to prepare us for this new age of AI.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent description of your motivation to write the book, and we'll talk about it further, I pray, in a second. Let's talk a little bit about how we met and your journey from the military into this, what seems to me that you're very invested in ensuring that people that have served their country and their God are taken care of in a variety of ways. You know, I'm always meeting people in airports. I don't always generally just invite them to come and, you know, to share their books on the show. So you're unusual. There's something unusual about our connection. There's something unusual about you. I'm trying to work out what it all is, Ben. So tell us a little bit about how you went from being, I understand that you were a chaplain when you served in Iraq, or no, you served as protection for a chaplain.
I was the bodyguard. Yeah, I wasn't godly enough to be the actual guy with the cross, but
you guarded his body.
I was godly enough to carry the gun and make sure he's safe. Yeah,
that's even sexier if you ask me. Really, I mean, anyone can get a Bible.
Yeah.
All right, so go on. So tell me that. So in Iraq, you served as personal protection for a chaplain, and how did you go from? What was it about your time in the services that led you to know that your ongoing mission was to ensure kind of an integration for service personnel in a civilian life and different forms of that?
Well, I got radically saved when I was 17. The bully of our high school, his name was Jason Anderson.
You bastard! We're still not forgiving you.
This guy would rip his toenails off and try to stab people with them. I mean, he was nuts. And he got...
You rip him off?
Oh, yeah. He would rip it absolutely off, and then he would try to stab people with him. Like, this guy was bonkers.
Because what can you do with a guy like that?
Dude,
because like he's using
what
what's
did God do with
normally
you,
used
you know? I mean,
as torture.
Yeah.
He's doing the torture on himself. He's establishing as a baseline, I'm willing to suffer pain, and then he's using that as a weapon. In a way, he's to be encouraged. But in another way, he's a bastard.
Yeah.
So he's to pull out his toenails and then use that as a weapon, like prison-style weapon manufacture, like a shiv, as we would call it in the UK.
Yeah.
But you somehow thwarted him.
Well, his aunt dragged him to a prayer meeting where he got saved and filled with the Holy Spirit. And Jason Anderson one day is bullying people. He was captain of the football team, captain of the wrestling team. He was a terror. And then the next day he shows up and he's on his knees praying for people to get healed in a Catholic high school. And it turned us all upside down. And so I gave my life to the Lord he threw this event, and we all were worshiping. And I didn't even know what it meant, but I just said, God, I will serve you for the rest of my life. And a few weeks later, I joined the military. I had a special forces slot because I got bullied quite a bit in high school, and I wanted to go kill bad people. And I failed the colorblind test. The only job they'd give me was a chaplain's assistant. And that was the first time that I felt the Lord say to me, I've got a calling on your life.
And then, so that's an amazing conversion story, by the way, because of Jason Anderson. I didn't expect that he was going to go from toenail vigilante.
Yeah, vigilante.
To playground Saul of Tarsus.
Totally.
Turning people right
Dude,
round like a
down.
record.
It went down.
Amazing, amazing. And then you were converted by that. Then you go, but you're colorblind, so you don't know what I've got on.
I don't have a clue.
Just so you know, I look fantastic.
Okay. Duly noted.
And then, so tell me, like, mate, what is it that you're doing with all of these, what I'm going to call gorgeous hunks of the military that I see you with, setting them up? It seems to me that you're bringing veterans to Christ. Is that what you're doing?
Our active duty military. So I went to combat and I saw some horrific things, and I really ran away from anyone wanting to know that I served in the military. It was just, it was a part of my past. And then I was in sales. I was making great money, and then God really put it on my heart. I've called you to reach the defenders of freedom. And then the doors just began to open with our military as I began to see the suicide crisis in our active duty military. Right now, a service member is 9 times more likely to die by suicide than by combat. And God just put this burden and the calling on my heart for a world without military suicide. And the only way that we're going to see that is through the Great Commission and through our military knowing Jesus and the freedom and the love that he brings.
And that's a staggering and terrifying statistic. Also, military personnel and veterans, more particularly, are especially likely to be homeless and to suffer from mental health and addiction issues. Well, one of the things that, like, it's one of the litmus tests on a nation that makes me recognize something must be very wrong. Because on the way into the military, it's like, you're heroes, you're going to get the gal, we're going to love you, you're fantastic. And on the way out, it's like, enjoy your suicide.
Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't, what's going on? What does that tell us about that machine?
I think it's not just about the military and the experience in the military. The majority of those who join the military have a past of physical. And then you come into the military, which is the most tribal environment that you're going to find in America, and you experience this tribe and this belonging where you know where you're supposed to be, you know where you belong, you know what you're supposed to wear, all the details are set for you. You go on mission, you experience traumatic things, and then you leave and you enter the most socially isolated culture in the world in America. And so it is the American culture of how isolated and how independent we are. You throw you take the white man and you put him in a tribe back in the 1700s and he would thrive. You take the Indian out of the tribe and you put him in the white man's culture and he'd fall apart. And so it is our independence that is killing us, and that's part of what I'm writing about in my book. It's our individualism. It's, hey, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to do it. When actually we need to be face to face. We need to be with other people. We need a place where we can belong, where we feel known, where we actually dwell with others and they see our humanity. They see our brokenness. They see our sin. And we're not trying to put on these fronts of trying to be enough for people. We're actually enough because we show up.
I love it. So I understand that better now. So it's not necessarily a particular problem with the military exclusively. It's the extraordinary combination of the life in the military and then coming back to a godless culture. And by godless, I mean lacking in connection, kindness, service, duty, utility. It's the contrast.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's the same thing with professional athletes. They have a tribe. They have a place they belong. They know what they're supposed to do. And then you enter into this world. And America is the most social isolated country in the world. There was a massive study that was done looking at over 100 developed nations, and America took, they took how much time do you spend driving the car, how much time do you spend having dinner with people, all of that. America took the gold prize by miles of being so individual, and that is what's causing our social isolation today.
How extraordinary that the defining and essential Luciferian sin is individual personal sovereignty, power apart from God, that he wants us, that the spiritual fall precedes the human fall, and that the fall in the spiritual realm is closed circuit. What does he want? He wants to be like God, as God. That when you put self on the throne, when I put self on the throne, I'm alone in there. It's terrifying that. It's terrifying to be in charge and to know your own limitations and to live not in a kingdom, but in some sort of bizarre, endless, meaningless, chaotic morass. If you seek first the kingdom of God, what you're doing is you're recognizing there's a king in that domain. There's a king, and it ain't you. And that puts me in the right posture, a posture of righteousness. But I'll tell you this thing that happened the other day. I came back I was in Croatia, and I went via Frankfurt on my way back, and I flew via Delta, real good service. And when the plane landed, you know how when your plane lands at Atlanta, you're all about like, I'm in a race now to get off this plane and get my stuff out of that overhead. I'm going to win. I'll be first. I'm going to clear people out of the way. I've got to carry on. I don't even have checked baggage. I will destroy you. I will destroy you. I'm going to be first off the plane. That's everyone, right? Yeah. Thought so. Well, I was very well set.
Can I have one of these? Can I take one? I mean, I'm liking the energy here.
Baby, I'm afraid to say that last riff was all crystal meth.
Okay, got it.
And Reborn Crystal Meth is available now. Don't try and mix that stuff in your own caravan in the yard. That won't work. We've got the very best. Don't take drugs. I'm 23 years clean. Yeah, take it. Have the whole bottle, darling. I love you. So when the plane landed, they did an announcement. This plane is carrying human remains. Sit tight. And I was like, oh, okay, this is new. You know, now luckily I'm a man of God, so I'm praying all the time anyway. I try not to stop praying. That's when I'm most at risk, is when I'm not in prayer. We sit there, and then they make another announcement there. It's like it's military personnel. Now, on this particular flight, I, by God's grace, had some kind of service where I could get out of the plane sort of pretty quickly after when it was sort of appropriate to move. That meant I was on the tarmac, and I see that coffin casket, in your language, being lowered. It weren't even draped in a flag. The flag is lacquered onto it. It's embossed on it. They make coffins now with the American flag. There was, I think, the fallen person was a Marine, I think I had learned, and there were like 3 officers in civil clothing to greet him, and I think they'd been on the plane with him or her remains. And then the guy that drove me, he goes, he works at Atlanta Airport. He says, this happens every day. Sometimes 10, 11 times a day. I'm thinking, what war are we in right now, like, that's facilitating that? And because of like people like our age, I'm saying we're, you know, you lot, the Vietnam War's not that long ago, the Iraq War, you know, we've had living young veterans for that kind of war. And the Second World War and the First World War is all in our collective memory. And unless people are like, oh, 20,000 people have died, 50,000 people have died, you kind of like, but when you actually saw the reality of that casket being lowered and recognizing there was a machine for it and a system for it and that it's happening all the time, I was thinking, what war is this that we're in that's worth even this person's life? And that experience gave me a sort of just a little bit of a prod when it comes to the nature of war, the nature of sacrifice, and what it's for. And I can't help but sort of align it to what we were talking about with Christina Tobin there when it comes to the nature of democracy. But as a veteran, do you have a sense that some of the wars you participated in were not for the protection of the high values of your great country and the potential to be a great country that it still has, but instead for some set of guarded interests that are part of the problem of the America that you return to, rather than the military experience that you still hold dear?
Yeah, I've wrestled with all of that, and I've had to come to the conclusion that the military serves at the order of the President of the United States, and that's who we are, and that's our mission, and that's our job set. You can go and ask people all around this country who are going to tear down the mission and ideals of our government. I think there's enough of that rhetoric. I'm also a person who's going to stand up and say, I still believe in America. I still believe in who it is, who she is, and what it does. We are the greatest exporter of the gospel. Over 660 million people in Africa have been recorded of coming to Christ through our missionary efforts post-World War II. And there's so much tearing down of our government and susceptibility around it. I still want to wave the flag for, you know what? I was called to do a job because those planes flew into our buildings back in 2001, and I wanted to go and I wanted to make a difference for our country. And that war that I was there, I experienced dozens of service members coming to Christ and encountering the Lord and lives being transformed, and that's what I hang my hat on.
Excellent. Well, I have to ensure then that we have the order of priority correct, because if we are first with God, then we are unlikely to attribute to a false God, whether that God comes draped in stars and stripes or draped in the logo of Sony or the logo of Ford vehicles or McDonald's or the British flag or whatever it is. It says that governments will rest upon his shoulders. It says that the nations are a drop in the bucket. We have forgotten the correct order. I don't question, and would not dare to question, the bravery, valor, honor, and sacrifice of people that have served for their country. And I know that if we are to prepare for his return, that having the affinity, affection, duty, and service of men like you and the men and women that you protect is paramount and vital, a high, high priority. However, I do see that, from my perspective, Ben, the nation exploits that fealty, that loyalty, and willingness to sacrifice.
And I don't disagree. I think it's so important to look at, what did we achieve in the war in Iraq? Not a lot. And that's hard to stomach. But what I will come back to, and I think we as Americans, because we have so much faith in ourselves and what we can do. I was having a conversation with a guy yesterday who's navigating his marriage and going through a very difficult time, and he was putting so much pressure on his next decision, and I just felt so called to remind him, dude, you serve a God who works all things together for the good of those who love him, are called according to his purpose. So you love God, and you are called according to his purpose, but you're putting so much pressure on yourself with this decision. Trust God, make the choice. And so, yes, there are things happening in our government. The sins of America are unnumerable. And we serve a God who works all things together for the good, and he's going to have the final say, and we're going to see his glory, and it's going to come.
Amen. When Intelligence Isn't Human by Ben Peterson is available now. There's a link in the description. I don't know who wrote this book, but judging from the cover, he's probably very sexy. Thanks all of you for joining us today. Thanks to let's hear it once more for our guest, Christina Tobin. And for Ben Peterson. Ben, thanks for joining us today. Thank you for your service, sir. We will be back on Monday, not for more of the same, but for more of the different. Until then, if you can, stay free.